this shit. Fuck it. Fuck this shit. Yeah, I don't know. What? Yo. Fuck it.
Hey guys, what is up? Welcome to another episode of Dreamspeed Productions. Right now, I'm headed to the bank to get some money because I'm about to go buy some super rare M3 style mirrors that were discontinued a long time ago for the Stratus. But that's not what this episode is about. This episode is about me headed out west again. I'm going to Idaho and I'm going to put together Alyssa Stoker's 3.8 mivec Eclipse. I'm not sure if we're gonna finish it. I guess we'll find out. Let's go to Idaho.
Yo, bitch. I tried to cover bitch, but this little bitch gon' be a hoe. I'm deep up in the forest, smoking on this Novocaine. I'm high up in the closet, hear the God say my name. Just one hit from this blunt could take me out this pain. You know me, broski never change, but when the money came, the family and all the hoes, they won't remain the same. I'm with the bros, I treat them like we is the Navy team. We smashing heads, we popping niggas with this toolie beam. Wait, hold on, ho, did you lie to me? I went from hell and back to get you all these diamond rings. I shake and shackle all my demons. I did what I believe in. I never trust a woman and I never trust a human. I never trust a human.
So today is day one on the Eclipse. Today I'm pretty much gonna go over everything that you need to 3.8 swap the Eclipse. We've got the 3 liter on the ground over here, and the first thing we're gonna do is focus on taking this apart, grabbing what we need from it, and then we're gonna set it on the pile and go over what exactly all of this stuff is for. So we really only need a few things from the 3 liter, and that is this engine mount side bracket, because this is where our alternator is going to mount. And then over here, this is a 7.2 upper alternator bracket that bolts right here, but as you can see, it's modified to clearance the mivec solenoid, which I will show you on the 3.8 later today when we get to that part. Now that this side engine mount is off that mounts the alternator, we need to take off this crank pulley and take the cog and trigger wheel that sits behind it. This sometimes can be a bit of a pain if you don't have an electric impact or an air impact that's strong enough. So you can take it off with the starter, but obviously that's only if it's in the car. Otherwise you have to brace the other side of the engine so it can't spin to loosen this bolt. So the front case is off of the 3 liter. We'll be taking the crank sensor, and then this is the trigger wheel and the crank cog. And there's also a dog. Hello. Now that all the parts are off the 3 liter, it's time to address the 3.8. The first thing we're gonna do is, if your engine comes like this with the harness on it, if you get it from a junkyard, most likely will, we're going to take all of this harnessing off so there's no more wires on the engine. This is the best way to do it, and it's the best way to get it to a bare block. Alright, as you can see, the wiring harness has been completely removed. Now we're going to get down to tearing the actual engine down. So step number 1 is going to be removing this rear oil control solenoid for mivec and this 6G75 crossover pipe, because we're going to be replacing that with the Diamante crossover pipe. On the front of the engine, we're going to be taking this mount off and tearing the face down so we can do timing. We're also going to be moving this fuel rail, throwing that away because we have a modded VR4 fuel rail, which I will go over later, and we will be removing and cleaning this lower intake. We're going to get the back half of this engine apart, and then I will show you how to install the distributor kit and the new crossover pipe. Alright, you can see that the rear of the heads are completely disassembled. Crossover pipe is gone. Mivec solenoid is gone. This is what you need. You need an 06 to an 07 block. A newer block will not work. This is the exact block that you need. Now we're going to move on to removing the fuel rail and the lower intake. This is all pretty simple. The fuel rail is held on by 4 bolts, and the lower intake, you can see down there, is held on by about 8. Alright, fuel rail and the lower intake plenum are off. Front side of the engine, it's the same story as the 3 liter. We're going to go ahead and remove this bracket, and then we are going to remove this crank pulley. And we're going to be doing that with, like I said, a high power electric ratchet. Probably one of the only ways to get these off. They are like cemented on there. I have had a lot of these stick. You need to have a powerful impact. That's the only way to get these off. Alright, here's a little bit of a side-by-side comparison of the 6G75 side engine mount bracket and the 7.2 side engine mount bracket. You can see here, this is where the alternator mounts to. This does not have that. As well as height differences, this is why we run the 7.2 one. It's direct bolt up, and it allows us a place to mount the alternator. You'll already have one on the engine, so this is not an extra part that you need to buy. Now I'm going to go over the list of Diamante parts that you need. This is a Diamante throttle body. On my engine, as you saw in the first clip, I'm using an S90 Evo throttle body. That's bolt up too. But as far as easily available in a junkyard, there's this. This is the Diamante power steering bracket. I'll show you guys how all of this stuff mounts up. So just for now, take note of everything that you need off of each car. This is that Diamante crossover pipe I was talking about, and it comes with these 2 auxiliary hoses. These will go to your heater core. They plug right into this housing. You can buy new seals at O'Reilly's still, so it's not a big deal. All of it pretty much bolts up to the 7.5. As for custom parts, we have this. This is the distributor adapter for mivec. I will show you guys how this mounts up to the rear mivec solenoid and goes to the front mivec solenoid. There's also a fitting in here that we're going to be putting in, and obviously mounting hardware. You can get that from Joey Miller. It's available. I believe there's 18 kits as of the date of this upload. There may be less. I actually ordered a couple, so I think there may be probably around 10 left. Right now, there are these. These came off of the 7.5M lower, not the lower intake, the fuel rail, which is sitting over there. That's the old fuel rail. We won't be using that. This is a modded VR4 fuel rail, obviously with AN fittings, and as you can see, these tabs are actually re-welded. And the reason these are re-welded is because the VR4 tabs are not in the same location as the 7.5M tabs, which are different. You can probably have somebody in the community do this for you, or if you're proficient with a welder, this really isn't hard. You're just going to grind off the tabs and weld them to the new spot. Same with the AN fittings. You just grind off the end studs and you put on some AN studs, so really not a huge deal. As far as the 7M upper intake, this needs to be modded because the throttle body is actually drive-by-wire on the 4th gen Eclipse, not drive-by-throttle. That's why we have this bracket, which mounts to the back side of this intake right there to run the cable. So that allows us to utilize the 7.4 Diamante throttle body. So let's get to work tearing down the rest of this engine, and then we will get to put it all together. Alright, so first thing I did is I installed this center cross pipe. You can see this is what goes into the water pump, and this is what we will be adding next. There's 2 gaskets, one on each face of this Diamante water pipe, and put them here, and then you snug the bolts down and it seals them up. This is the Diamante coolant bracket on the back side of the engine. You can see that it's not all the way installed yet, it's kind of in there, but the next thing I'm going to install is this mivec kit. with the adapter plate. But first we need to remove this from the front solenoid. Just a wrench takes this out, and we're going to replace it with the fitting that comes in the kit. So before you install the mivec kit, the lower intake and fuel rail need to go on. So I cleaned out the lower intake, and I'll be putting the fuel rail on top of it. On the back of the distributor, you can see that there's two fins, and these fins will fit directly into the back of the cam. The distributor is mounted up. That is the bracket, and as you can see, there's one fitting here, and there's one fitting on this front head solenoid. So that is what this is for. You can route this whatever way you want. Just has to go from here to here, and obviously not cross over this. So let's get this installed and move to the front of the engine. Once this line is installed, that is it for the distributor adapter. And then we need to move on to probably the shittiest part of the engine, which is the timing. As you can see, 3 marks. One up here, lines up with the valve cover. One up here, that lines up with this plate. And then down here, we're going to be using the cog off of the 3 liter and taking this belt off. And the way we do that is by taking this tensioner and this pulley off, and then the belt will come directly off. The 3-prong 3G disc is on. Now the next step is to install the crank sensor. Goes right there, right over this disc, passes through it, and that's how the crank sensor reads. Next step is to be lining up this mark and this mark, put the belt and tensioners on, and then I will show you guys how to tension it. Okay, so these are the new pulleys. This comes in the timing kit, this comes in the timing kit, and this is separate. This is the auto tensioner. So basically what you do is you need one of these. This is for every Mitsubishi. It is a Mitsubishi timing tool. It goes right in this smiley right here, and then with one wrench you're going to put pressure on it this way, that way, towards the crank, and as it goes up it will tension this belt, and then you will tighten this bolt right here. Once it is done correctly, this pin right here should be loose, should be very loose. To triple check that this is in time, what you're going to do is you're going to put a breaker bar in this hole, and you're going to rotate the engine over 2 full rotations and let it sit for 15 minutes. Once it's sat, if this is still loose, you know you have correct tension on the belt. If this is tight, you need to do this method again and retension it. Alright, next we're going to focus on brackets. This is the custom alternator bracket to clear the mivec solenoid. As you can see, this side is ground down, and it will fit right there, and it will not hit the solenoid. That is the goal. Alright, both side brackets are on. This is the power steering one for the Diamante, and then this is the clearance 721. If you're using the 7.5 lower timing cover instead of the 7.4 lower cover, you gotta grind off the part that has the timing marks on it, because that is exactly where the serpentine belt is going to go. We're going to mount the front case up and then mount the alternator and power steering. The front case is now on. The alternator is connected. It's just this bolt down here and then this one here to hold it in place. And then now this is a bracket. This is the power steering bracket, lower power steering bracket from the 3 liter. And then this is the upper from the Diamante. And basically your power steering pump just sits right there, and it's on a tensioner. I'm going to get that mocked up, and then I am going to shoot another video of how it tensions. Alright, as you can see, power steering bracket is on. We were missing one bolt there, and we're missing some bolts on the back side we're going to have to go grab. I'm not sure The valve cover needs to be painted. Need to put new spark plugs in. But the trans is ready to go. So we might call it a night. We'll see what else we can get done. Alright, it is day 3 working on the Eclipse. Yesterday we had to go pick up this Y pipe from Terrence. I'll plug in day 2 right here.
And I can't breathe without you here. Switch. No, I can't see you, make it clearer. And I can't breathe without you near me. Yeah, I see you, make it clearer. Hopped out of the car with my shades on. I can't see where I'm gonna go wrong. Hopped out of the car with my hood up. Head down, skipping cracks for some good luck. Making music and I'm hitting 22. Getting pretty old in the business, making moves on. Go back 17. Making music, be where I wanna be. Take a fucking scene now. I got pictures and novels I wanna read out.
Alright, so we basically got this Y pipe and it needs to be lengthened, and then we got the headers in yesterday as well. Today we're mostly focusing on getting all of the auxiliary stuff, hoses, lines. We've got a couple bolts back here on the coolant manifold, or this coolant pipe, whatever you want to call it, so we can get that connected to the back of the head. And then it's pretty much going to be a game of getting the intake on, throttle body, and all that good stuff. And I'm hoping to get the trans connected and then it ready to go in the car Friday, which would be tomorrow. Because today is day 3, so day 4, engine will be in the car. Then after that we can focus on wiring and stuff. So let's head to the store, grab the stuff we need, and when we get back, start working on the engine again.
Take a fucking scene now. I got pictures and novels I wanna read out. Take a fucking ticket. Have another seat with you in a minute. I be waiting real patient for the scrimmage. Irish boy like to fight with a minute. Always throwing hands out and keeping up an image. Yeah, like a picture of Polaroid. When I'm out of town, you'll be fucking another. And I can't even give out. I'll be fucking other girls while I'm out of town. I can't see where I'm gonna go.
It is day 4. We're going to focus on getting the transmission put the rest of the way on. As you can see, it's not bolted up all the way. And once that is done, we've just got a couple little things to button up here. On the back side of the engine, this is where the axle mounts. And as you can see, this is not exactly flush. This needs to be ground flush because the axle sits directly against there. On the front side, this is actually a timing tensioner pulley, and if you delete AC, you're going to need this pulley on this spot right here, because if you use the larger pulley, the belt will rub into itself and burn through itself. We've bought a couple different belts, and we are struggling to find the right size. But once I do, I'll link that number, boop, in the top corner here, if I found it. If not, it's blank and has a sad face.
Why the fuck you wanna fuck with me? Got no friends, only kicking with my enemies. FaceTime when I'm feeling so lonely. Virtual girl, she can't blow me, yeah. I drank another bottle of wine. I got drunk to pass the time, but time goes slowly. Just need someone to hold me. I'm so unholy. Store liquor in the Bible slowly. Hopped out of the car with my shades on. I can't see where I'm gonna go. Hopped out of the car with my head up. Head down, skip cracks for some good. Cars better cover their plasters. No stitching in.
So last night the goal was to put the engine in the car, but unfortunately this is what happens when you leave chains outside for a long period of time and they are not that good of quality to begin with. I don't know if you can tell really, that weld is stretched out. And typically when you're lifting these, you hoist it through this part of the mount, and as you can see, this snapped clear off. This is why it is so important not to be under the engine, any of your body parts, while you're trying to put it in the car, because you can get very hurt. Luckily this didn't fall. It was already pretty much sitting on the tire by the time this chain stretched and this snapped, but that's why safety is number one when you're trying to put this back in the car. So we've got some new chains we're going to try later tonight, but right now I'm working on cutting this vent because I am running the AFR gauge right here. Alright, as you can see, the gauge is now in the vent. Basically all you do here is, if you can see, this car doesn't have AC, so it doesn't really matter. Cut a hole right behind here, and you can route the wires right straight through the ducting. Get a nice clean location, that way you don't need to run pillar pods or anything like that. On my personal car, I've got it routed right here, and I'm pulling power right here. For her car, it's just set up in a different location. Doesn't really matter what vent you decide to put it in. Really, its only purpose is for logging tuning anyway. If you're super vigilant while you're driving, this can help you a little bit. If you see something that looks off, you know to look into the tune, but for something like this where we're getting a base tune and then we're going to get it mapped by somebody, this really is just for the tuning pulls and stuff, but I still like it to look clean. Alright, so now that we've got these wires run to the passenger side, there's a couple things we've got to do with them. But first of all, I want to explain what this is. So this is the DB9 cable, and this cable does not come with the gauge. Essentially, this is what allows you to read the information from the gauge and port it onto EvoScan on your computer. There's a nice little write-up if you just look up AFR DB9 cable on the Evo M forum on how to wire this. It's just a little two-wire connector. One's power, one is ground. You wire it straight into the gauge, and then allows you to pull the information you need for tuning. So we're going to wire that up, and then we're going to run the other one into the engine bay. Alright, so I pretty much have the wires ran where I want them. There's a lot of videos going over this, so I'm going to make it pretty brief, but there's a diagram that comes in the box, and essentially one of these is power, one of them is ground. So you're really just working with a couple wires. So this is going to be the serial output, this is going to be the ground, and then you've got this red one which powers the gauge. So it's really just 5 wires. So we're going to get that wired up, make sure the gauge power's on, and check it all out.
Lie on the ground
Unfortunately, this is my last day with the Eclipse. There's lots of little wiring stuff I need to go over and fix. As you can see, the downpipe is not quite on yet. Lots of it is just small little stuff. Fueling system I need to finish up, battery tray, things like that. Besides that, I think I've gone over every sensor, every bracket, everything you need to put the 3.8 liter in your 3G Eclipse. The main engine harness lays straight across the engine. There's nothing really too crazy about that. O2 sensor plugs, NOx sensor plug is over here. Everything is in, pretty much the stock location. We deleted EGR, so there's a couple extra plugs back here. Some of this stuff is, it's going to be a little bit different depending on how you do your build and what parts you choose and stuff like that. But this is how you mivec swap a 3G. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. I'm going to see if I can get this thing put back the rest of the way together and start it up. But if not, catch you guys in Wisconsin. Alright, and just like that, we're back in Wisconsin. So I know we didn't get the Eclipse completely 100% done, but I went over all the major parts. So we're going to put this engine in this car, which is, this is the exact same shell as the 3G, just looks different on the outside, different wrapper. And we will get this one running. We'll go over a little bit more details in a later video. I hope you guys like this one. Coming up soon, we're going to be having a lot of content on this M50 big turbo E34. So right now we're working on putting this in. Hopefully this will be able to hit the road in a few weeks and we'll get a lot of good videos with it. This is our list of stuff we have to get done. Right now we're going to work on getting the engine in, and then that's going to be a day for us. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.
Me out this pain. You know me, broski never change, but when the money came, the family and all the hoes, they won't remain the same. I'm with the bros, I treat them like we is the Navy team. We smash your heads, we pop it niggas with this toolie beam. Wait, hold on, hold on.